What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 37 of the Hoop Venue podcast. My name is Tyler, and as always, I'm joined by my great friend Sean. It kind of feels like episode 38, actually, because what you guys don't know is that we recorded episode 37 a solid 3 days ago, and the lag from our internet was so bad that you would hear Sean's voice while I'm talking on your screen, and I made an executive decision to just not upload that. So we're gonna redo our playoff projections, and actually, we've learned some new information since then. So when we first recorded, all we had as confirmed matchups were the 3 and 6 on both sides. Now we have the 2 and 7, and honestly, we both kind of feel strongly about what's going to happen with the 1-8 series. So we're just gonna do the entire first round. We're gonna predict the entire first round of the NBA playoffs today. We're gonna dive into each individual matchup. We are 2 days away, man. Actually, from the time you're listening to this, the playoffs start tomorrow. So We are officially all the way here. And we haven't structured this episode at all. So I'm just going to throw it to Sean. Pick a series. Pick a series that we'll start with, and we will dive into it.
Let's start off with Clippers-Nuggets. Let's start off with Clippers-Nuggets. Let's start off with arguably... This is a very philosophical series, I think, where I think there are some people that still want to lean Denver, but I get it. It's simply the Jokic factor. It's almost Jokic and Giannis are two very similar situations where, from a team structure standpoint, who's playing better right now, very clearly they are at the disadvantage in terms of the Bucks being the disadvantage against Indiana and Denver being at a disadvantage against the Clippers. But Jokic and Giannis are both particularly playing at such ridiculous high levels that there are a lot of people, and rightfully so, kind of have 2018 Bron syndrome, where it's like, all right, I know that Boston is better than this Cavs team, but they have LeBron, so what do you do? And I think this is a fun series to start off with Clippers Nuggets.
Yeah, for sure. I think especially the Jokic variable makes things so interesting, because I feel like we kind of saw what a peak defense against Jokic looks like last year in the second round against Minnesota, and that was a series that he still walked out of with 29, 13, and 8 on 60% true shooting.
Yeah.
So if that's the floor with Jokic, that's not just terrifying. It's frankly, just what do you do with that? It doesn't matter. Minnesota did basically the best impersonation of a perfect defense. They basically said, we aren't going to guard KCP. We're not even going to guard Jamal Murray out of pick and roll. Their pick and roll strategy was for Cat to get out of Jamal's way and let him drive into Gobert. And then they just let everyone shoot, including Michael Porter Jr. Just let everyone shoot. And they were like, okay, we're only going to worry about slowing down Jokic. And then he damn near averages an efficient 30-point triple-double. He's just an absolute freak of an offensive player.
Can I add one thing to that really quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel so, okay, we did our top 10 offensive peaks list with Mars, I want to say a week and a half ago at this point. I feel even more confident about having Jokic 1 now for my all-time offensive peak, simply because, dude, just put 4. I know you saw the NBA University tweet from earlier, where it's the most efficient offenses in basketball this season. I'm looking at the list, I'm these lineups of Jokic outside of the starting lineup is low-key nasty. You could put 4 just non-factors on the floor next to Jokic, and you are guaranteed at least an above-average offense. That lineup with Giannis, too. It's Ryan Rollins, Kuz, Brook Lopez, and Torian Prince, maybe? Not a great lineup. Just the offensive floor raiser, but also the ceiling raiser, too, I think, of Jokic as well. So I just want to throw that out there as well, because that just made me feel even more confident in my pick of Jokic.
Yeah, absolutely. Jokic, he does literally, he's the most complete offensive player we've ever seen. There's nothing you can poke at and say, oh, let's take advantage of this, especially now that he's just a 44% three-point shooter or whatever that is.
Last season was a joke. It was a fluke.
Yeah,
you have the playoff run in the championship year, then last year, and then you have a full year of this. I'm kind of convinced last year was a fluke.
Yeah. I mean, he has dealt with a lot of wrist injuries in the past. I remember specifically the end of that 2022 season when he won his second MVP. He started shooting 25% from 3 for the last month or two of that season, and then shot 21% against the Warriors in the first round. Another series where over the last 3 games... Yeah, no, that was the second. The first MVP was the year they got knocked by Phoenix in the second round.
Okay.
When Chris
Okay.
Paul averaged like 30 and 10 in the second round.
Yeah.
Shout out Chris
Okay.
Paul. Shout out Chris Paul. And then Jokic got ejected of out of the elimination game for smacking Campaign in the face and then getting in Booker. Yeah, and interesting stuff. But 2022, shot goes completely gone, shooting like 20% against the Warriors defense that ended up winning the championship. That was a championship defense. And over the last 3 games of that series, he averaged 35 on 70% true shooting. So it's just another notch in this ridiculous offensive portfolio. The thing with Jokic in this series is that Zubac has shown historically to be one of the best individual Jokic defenders, and it's because of the strength, the size. He can keep him off the offensive glass. He can hold his own on the block. He's got huge arms, so he can really contest. And I think Jokic historically has struggled with the big guys that aren't so slow to where they can't even keep him in front. Like, I think he kind of, and I don't want to say Gobert doesn't do a pretty good job, because Gobert does do a pretty decent job, more than he gets credit for. Same with AD, but those guys kind of do just get pushed around. Jokic is just a lot bigger than both of those guys, and I think a guy like Zubac is going to be able to hold his own on the block, and he's agile enough to where you're not just getting cooked in space. I think the weird thing with Zubac on Jokic is, what does Zubac do when the Nuggets go to all of the like running Jokic around screens like a wing, inverted pick and roll? That's stuff that Zubac probably can't handle. And that's where I think the Nuggets are going to get a lot of their offense in this series. I think they're going to be using Jokic a lot more like a guard out in space, like a wing. I also am interested to see what they do against Jamal Murray pick and rolls, because Jamal Murray, like, for all of his flaws, he has shown to be a consistent playoff riser. Last year was a little bit weird. He also was dealing with some injuries. But the
Cooked
one
us,
thing
though,
that
of course, but
yeah, only in fourth quarters though. Only in fourth
quarters.
Only in fourth quarters. But like, the thing with Jamal is that, say what you want about him, the one thing that's always going to be there is the pull-up shooting. And so with Zoo, you can't really do the deep drop thing, I feel like, because Jamal, I mean, I'm thinking about it this way. I don't know, it's tough, because then you have the fact that Jamal's biggest weakness as an offensive player is probably the fact that he struggles with ball pressure. And then Chris Dunn's going to be picking him up like 80 feet, pressuring the ball constantly. And if Chris Dunn's not on the court, Derrick Jones Jr. is on the court. And also, this is probably a series where Chris Dunn gets up to 30 minutes a game, because Denver doesn't have the personnel to make his non-shooting that big of a problem. Yeah, honestly, I just think like every time I kind of do the mental gymnastics of like, okay, what happens here? Let's do this. The adjustment thing in my head. This is still one of the two. There's 2 series that I haven't done the complete deep dive on yet, which I'm going to do this one tomorrow. So I'll be more educated tomorrow. But the more I think about it just in my head, just rough drafting it, like, I just feel like the Clippers can do more on both ends of the floor to limit what Denver wants to do than vice versa. Like, what do you do with Jokic against a Harden Zoo pick and roll? What do you do with that? Do you hedge? Do you drop? What do you think? And then also, keep in mind, Aaron Gordon can't play low man because he's going to be guarding Kawhi.
So who's Michael Porter Jr. guarding?
It'll be either Dunn or Derrick Jones Jr.
Yeah.
But then I'm thinking, say he's on Dunn. Okay, that puts him in a position to do the free safety thing, but then they would just start running the ball screen with Dunn. And you don't want Porter switching on to Harden. That's free isolation eats all 7 games.
Right.
And I think, not to cut you off, I knew you were about to get into a point, but my last point before, because I know I've been rambling, it all just comes back to the fact that Denver's defense is just, it's very bad. It's the worst defense in the playoffs. And the Clippers have, in their starting 5, 4 really big weapons. They have a huge mismatch post-up guy in Zoo, who's also a threat on the roll. They have a top 3 isolationist on the 2 of the top 5 isolationists on the planet right now with Harden and Kawhi. Then they have another, oh yeah, by the way, they have a 24 or whatever point per game scorer who shoots 43% from 3 on the move and is going to put Jokic in pin down action. Like, dude, the Clippers just have so many options. That's what it comes down to.
In our like take one that is now we're going to call that the deja vu episode, because some of this is going to be somewhat regurgitated for us. I think you made the point when talking about this series to talk about the Timberwolves series with the Lakers, that sometimes this comes down to like who can like create the most problems for the other team like off rip without even a game being played. And I think that's just the Clippers for Denver. Like the Clippers have so many things that is going to immediately cause for an adjustment before there is even a second of basketball played yet. From a lineup standpoint, from a tactical standpoint, because to your argument about, okay, what do we do about a 1-5 pick and roll with Harden and Zoo with the floor being spaced by Kawhi, and Norman Powell? Okay, the first option you said is I don't think you play drop. I don't think you play drop. I think that is easily where Jokic is at his worst. I think Jokic, some utility Jokic has as a defensive player this season is still probably where he's more at the level. Automatic issue there. Harden's just going to pick that the 2-on-1 advantage apart. Zeus became a dominant mismatch threat, especially out like short roll situations. And, okay, low man rotates over. Let's say it's Michael Porter Jr. Michael Porter Jr. is playing the free safety, tagging off of Chris Dunn. Okay, Zeus just going to catch, do exactly this. Ball right here, catch, turn, and get to the jump hook. Get to the jump hook. It's automatic offense, and then you get hit Chris Dunn on a cut, or you could get some movement action and get Norman Powell on the move out of their ball screen stuff too. Go like a veer concept or something of the like. There's just so many tactical problems that Denver is automatically going to be forced into tonight. Like the series hasn't started yet. They're automatically forced into some of these issues. Then we go matchups. So Christian Brown's probably on Harden.
Don't love that right away. I don't love that.
It's not great. Jamal's guarding either Dunn or Powell.
Probably Powell, I would imagine.
Okay.
Yeah, dude. Like then, like Powell in like pin down action with Jokic's man screening. What do you do
with Jokic's man screening and Jamal chasing?
Yeah, like
okay. And then like, where do we want to utilize Aaron Gordon at? Like, I think the most likely thing is him at, as a wing stopper for Kawhi. But then, honestly, okay, cool. Kawhi will get you your buckets whenever you want to get them, but we're just going to spam 1-5 pick and roll. Aaron Gordon's not leaving you, and we'll have Powell on some off-ball action along with it, and we're just going to run 3-man action with Harden, Powell, and Zoo the whole series and win it and just, like, score 130. Not literally 130, but like, you can't guard that. So I'm almost wondering and curious to see if quarters 1 through 3, Denver almost goes Aaron Gordon on like a Derrick Jones Jr. or a Chris Dunn. So at the very least, if we're going to go 1-5 pick and roll, we do have the utility of letting Aaron Gordon roam off, be a free safety, and be able to meet Zoo at the catch point and be a little bit more physical with them. And then if Kawhi decides to isolate Michael Porter Jr., we'll try to show as many bodies as possible and at least force contested jumpers for the first 3 quarters. And then the fourth quarter, we'll go AG on Kawhi. And if they try to go ISO ball. That's just me spitballing because there's just not a lot of options for Denver.
Yeah, no, that I actually, you kind of just like put an idea in my head that I hadn't previously thought about. What if by the end of the series the Nuggets are rolling out P-Watt with those lineups? Because Watson's probably like a top 5 to 10 rim protecting wing in the league.
Yep.
So what if you go like Peyton Watson as your roamer? Then you can get AG on Kawhi and still have that rim protection. And then basically your plan is Jokic, get us out of the mud on offense because we're not going to have space. Like we're not going to have
Jamal
MPJ
out there with you.
We'll still have Jamal. We'll run some 2-man stuff, but like we're leaning into this defense thing. I wonder if that's their best pathway to victory because I'm thinking like normal starting and closing fives. The Clippers just have an overwhelming advantage. One thing that I will say though is that I haven't dove into these 2 games yet, so it's something I'm going to be looking for. But in the last 2 games the Nuggets and Clippers have played against each other, both Harden and Zoo played really bad. So I don't know if it was something the Nuggets did defensively or if they just played bad games. But in the last game, Harden, 16 points on 33% shooting. Zoo, 10 and 8, only got 4 shot attempts. The game before that, Zoo, 13 and 13 on 50%. Harden, 15 on 43%. But then you have the 2 games before that where Harden went absolutely ballistic on December 1st, 39, 9, and 11. And then the game before that was the game where Zoo was just feasting. He had did he have 20 and 20? 24 and 15 while Harden had 16 assists. And I specifically remember that game because that's when the Nuggets were hedging the pick and rolls. Zoo was just sealing the low man every time. So Harden would patiently wait, pull Jokic with him. Zoo would seal the low man, and they would just dump it into the post, and that was their offense. And they just got points pretty much every time down the court because it's easy work.
Now, granted, Nuggets have not played Kawhi yet. They have not played Kawhi all year. That's like the downside of these matches being so early. Like, first game, October 26th, and then they played twice in December in a span of 2 weeks, and then they played again January 8th.
Yeah. So you don't have any, we have no idea what's going to happen, basically.
We have no idea what's going to happen with Kawhi. 39, 9, and 11. Norman Powell with 28.
I do want to give credit, though. I don't want to make it sound like we're just super heavily favoring the Clippers here, because you kind of made the point earlier. The Nuggets have a lot of offensive juice. There are ways they can absolutely attack the Clippers. I think one way is that they really rely on Zoo for their rebounding and their rim protection. Mm-hmm. So if Jokic is getting Zoo out and 30 feet away from the basket,
they're going to
what do you do against
early. Yeah.
Aaron Gordon high-low stuff or Michael Porter Jr. coming off back screens? What do you do against that if you're the Clippers?
Do you just switch 1 through 4? And then
I feel you kind of, but
switch underneath.
Okay, who do you? Let's talk matchups. Let's talk matchups on the Clippers side. We did it for the Nuggets. What are you doing? I think you go. I think you easily go Dunn on Murray. That's
easily
the one, and
Murray.
then Zoo on Jokic. Those are the two givens. Who do you go with Kawhi? Probably Christian Brown. Am I crazy?
I low key almost said Harden on Christian Brown.
I don't know, because Brown likes to play in transition. He likes to cut a lot. I feel like Harden is better suited to I don't know, actually. Now this is weird because I feel like.
No, I kind of like the idea of Harden on Christian Brown. Because then if you want to go 1-4 pick and roll or even a Zoo, an Aaron Gordon, Jokic inverted pick and roll, and you have Kawhi guarding Aaron Gordon, that's an automatic switch. And then you just. Almost similar. I hate that I'm bringing the Lakers into the conversation. Almost how the Lakers did it, and we're just going to switch out aggressively and then collapse the paint and just make you see bodies with Jokic, honestly. So I would go Jokic. I would go Zoo on Jokic, and so that way if they went AG, Jokic, inverted pick and roll, and it's Harden or Norman on them, then you don't have to mix your coverage up and go a show or a soft hedge or whatever. We can just easily switch it, and if Jokic wants to post Kawhi up, we're just going to trust Kawhi for these 5 seconds. And if we have to send double, we can do that. But I'm trying to keep us out of immediate rotation. If we're going to rotate, we're going to do that secondary, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah.
And one thing we didn't even bring up, conversation than a whole hour pod we did the other day, by the way.
Oh, yeah. But I was thinking, we didn't even bring up, what if the Clippers get done off the court and go bogey? Now you have the 4 out, 1 in spacing. Oh, dude, there's a lot. There's a lot to consider with the series. What do you think about Westbrook in this series?
Because
I will say, I understand the limitations with Westbrook, and he definitely hasn't been at his greatest these last couple months. But they did have a run with Westbrook playing point guard. Yeah. And I think there are ways you can attack Zubats and drop with the Westbrook-Jokic pick and roll because of Westbrook's ability to get to that short mid-range area and make those dump-off passes. I can see Jokic getting a lot of floaters in this series off of the Zoo drop.
Follow me here. Potential lineup later on in the game. This is their starting lineup, obviously, but basically if you just we take your idea with Payne Watson and we go Russ instead of Christian Brown. So basically we're swapping Christian Brown and MPJ for Russ and Payne Watson. And then we'll let Murray, kind of how they did when they went Russ as the point guard, let Murray be our off-ball threat, run him off all the pin downs and off-ball action. Let Russ try to attack Zoo in the deep drop. And, we're going to lead a little bit more defense by Payne Watson, probably throw Russ on Harden as well.
Yeah. And I feel okay with Russ on Harden just because of the aggression. I think he makes things a little bit uncomfortable and the physicality. Not necessarily he's going to lock Harden up in isolation, but pressure, aggression, going for steals, forcing turnovers, things like that. I feel okay with that.
A little bit easier to hide Jamal too.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you feel better? I feel like Westbrook probably fares better against Harden than Brown. Is that a hot take?
No, I don't think so.
Like,
for the
that makes sense.
pressuring aspect, and I think he can match Harden's physicality a little bit too.
Yeah.
Or just like his, the size, the kind of the girthiness, of Harden. Like he can
And
kind
also-
of match that a little bit better, I think.
One thing that I think is kind of a factor with Russ at the point of attack too is you can probably get away with a little bit more of Jokic and drop just because Russ is really good in rear pursuit. And because Harden's not really as much of an interior threat, I feel like Westbrook playing from behind or playing from the hip could make things a little bit uncomfortable for him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to see it. I'll have to see it first before I really get that take off. Last thing that I want to talk about with Clippers Nuggets, and this is one that I just came up with while we were talking. Both of these teams are super reliant on the five. Like the Clippers collapse without Zoo, and the Nuggets collapse without Jokic. Both teams go small. The Nuggets backup five is usually Aaron Gordon, and the Clippers backup five right now is Ben Simmons. So my question for you is, who wins the non-big minutes? Because I'm going to assume they're on the exact same pattern. Who wins the non-big minutes?
Am I crazy for still saying the Clippers because of how insanely bad the Nuggets are without Jokic?
I don't think that's a hot take at all. I think it's kind of the correct take because at least the Clippers during those minutes are probably going to still have Harden and Bogdanovich on the court.
Yeah. Like the
And
Clippers
that's,
got
like,
some
Harden-
offensive edge on the floor.
Yeah, I think the big thing is that the reason these Clippers lineups collapse without Zoo is because they lose the defense and the rebounding. It's not necessarily the offense collapsing as much. I think Harden is still such a really, really good offensive floor raiser, and you don't run into the rim protection and rebounding problems against that Nuggets lineup because they also struggle to rebound and they don't really put pressure on the rim. They kind of rely on really tough shot making. I think there's a few advantages for the Nuggets in this series. I think you got Jokic is the ultimate advantage. He's just such a freak. I also think their pace is a big advantage because the Clippers like to play slow, and the Nuggets were one of the fastest teams in the league this year, especially with Westbrook on the court. So I think their pace is probably a big advantage. I think Jamal's pull-up shooting can either be a huge advantage or a huge weakness. Like that is one of the big swing factors. And also their front court size. Like between Jokic and Zoo, that's kind of a wash. But I do think guys like Gordon, MPJ, Watson give them a size advantage over the front court you have in LA. But then LA's advantage is just offensive versatility, defensive versatility, depth, wings, playmaking. Like I just feel like they kind of check more boxes. Shooting too. They have more shooting. So ultimately, I'm still rolling with my prediction from our Deja Vu episode. I got the Clippers in 6.
I
if
also
I had to
have
make
the
a
Clippers
prediction.
in 6. I think I'm giving with this conversation the Nuggets a little bit more credit now. Just be able to like talk through some of the stuff. But I am also going to go Clippers in 6 still. I think for all the same reasons you said, and really the ultimate reason, they present so many adjustments, arguably before basketball's even started yet, that Denver's going to have to immediately adjust to, or the series is over relatively quickly, unless Jokic is just ridiculous, which is very much in the realm of possibility. But I'm still going Clippers in 6. I think it'll be a really, really fun 6-game series, though.
Yes, I agree. And I do want to get that last point. I want to hammer that home. A big theme you'll see in my predictions and kind of my takeaways on each series is I always tend to bias towards or like lean initially towards the team that forces the opponent to adjust to what they're going to do. Like, this is our game plan. We're going to do this. What can you do to counter it? I think that automatically gives you an advantage because you just stick with what you've been doing for 82 games, while the other team now has to step out of their comfort zone. And we've seen teams win that battle. Like, I think a great example is the 2023 Lakers-Warriors series. I think the Warriors forced the Lakers to adjust a lot more than the other way around. And the Lakers just kept adjusting, and it was mostly just Anthony Davis stuff on defense. And they ended up winning that series in 6 games. So we've seen it happen, but I think the initial advantage will always lean towards the team that forces their opponent to adjust.
Yeah.
What series do you want to go to next?
Let's go east and briefly touch on Boston, Orlando, I think.
Yeah, I don't need to say anything.
I got flack for saying Boston like sweeps this series, and as much as I want to give credit to Paolo and the France, and they're both incredible players. It's about as bad of a matchup I think. I would have given them a game against Cleveland. I think they would have like stolen one, maybe even in Cleveland or one in Orlando. This is just an awful matchup, and Boston's just going to take advantage of the fact that this is the worst 3-point shooting team on the planet. And like, I had somebody on my mention saying, "Well, Sean, are you just ignoring the fact that Orlando's the best defense in the league?" And well, they're not the best defense in the league. For one, it's clearly the Thunder. For two, we were talking about this off air. The teams, the 3rd through 7th best defense, I would rather face Orlando's defense over 3 through 7, which is like, in some order, I honestly forgot it already. Clippers, Rockets, Celtics, Timberwolves, Warriors. Like, yeah. I would rather face Orlando.
You got it in order. You kind of cooked there. I think that was in order.
What did I say? Clippers, Celtics, Rockets.
Yeah, that's in order.
Warriors. That's the order.
You cooked.
Oh yeah, Sean.
There you go.
Not looking at it.
Yeah, either. I think my first takeaway honestly is kind of funny, but like, this is a series where you can play Luke Cornett like 35 minutes, and to me, that immediately is like, okay, yep, Boston won, because what the heck is Luke Cornett on the floor for 30 minutes for? He's obviously not going to play 30 minutes, but the point is, people want to like talk themselves into a non-boring series. And I get it. Like, Orlando's fun. They have like Cole Anthony Black in the play-in. Those two was freaking awesome. What they did was awesome.
Black.
Cole Anthony Black. That was awesome. Jonathan Isaac is one of the best defenders on the planet still. He doesn't get enough credit. He got credit last year, but this year he kind of fell off the face of the earth. He's still a very, very phenomenal defender. Franz and Paolo are super fun. Both are big, giant creators who are going to cause a lot of problems for defenses, unless your defense is the Boston Celtics, because they are just going to sit on everything. And really, it comes down to this. Boston has the best player in the series, by far. Mm-hmm. They have the best. They are the better shooting team by a landslide. They're the better passing team by a landslide. They're the better ball handling team by a landslide. They're the better. They're not the better rebounding team. I'll give Orlando the rebounding. They're the better perimeter defensive team. They're the better interior defensive team. They're the more versatile defensive. They're just better at everything. So why are people like? I've seen people saying that Orlando could upset them. That I've been seeing that, and on Twitter. On Twitter, I've been seeing people saying like Orlando.
My mentions are that bad.
I don't know what they're seeing. This is like the easy, like, if Orlando steals a game because Boston's kind of like fluking, whatever. Like, I think Atlanta took 2 games in 2023, right? Like, that was whatever. That still wasn't
was that
a series.
Last year?
No, last year was
Miami. No, I don't remember. So yeah, 2 years ago.
Miami. Yeah, last year was Miami. 2023 first round, Atlanta took 2 games, but it was not a series at all.
Shout out,
like,
Trey.
No one thought Atlanta had a serious chance. If Orlando steals a game or 2, cool. This is not a series. I would say my prediction would be Boston in 4.
Yeah, Boston in 4. Now, I do have an interesting question, because when you said they have the best player in the series, talking about Boston, it's like, how likely is it that Boston potentially has the second best player in the series, depending on I
think if Jaylen Brown is what he was during last year's playoffs, that's the second best player in the series.
That's what I was getting to. Yeah.
But based off of what we've seen just this season, I'd probably lean Paolo over the last month or 2. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's tough. Porzingis is second best player in this series.
Shout out Kristaps.
Yeah, shout out Kristaps. Also shout out Derek White. Also shout out Franz. Also shout out Al Horford, because he'll probably be the second best player as soon as the playoffs start. I say we just get rid of Thunder versus whoever wins the 8-9 play-in, or 8-10.
Who creates the tougher 5-game series?
Easily Memphis to me. Easily Memphis.
Okay.
I just think Memphis is a sneaky, underrated, good team, and I think they didn't get enough credit for what they did in the play-in. Like, they were just completely outmatched by a Warriors team schematically that poked holes in all of their flaws on both ends of the floor. Mm-hmm. Then Ja sprains an ankle, and I don't even know if it was a sprain, but he hurts his ankle. They also don't have Jalen Wells, and they end up pushing it to the final second. Like, regardless of what you think about the calls at the end and things like that, the Grizzlies' real starting 5 of Ja, Bane, Wells, Jaren, and Edey has a plus 24 net rating on the season.
Yeah.
Like they're a good freaking team. They're a good freaking team. They play with pace. They have a lot of size. I think Edie's going to give them a lot of problems if that's the matchup that ends up happening. They also kind of don't have the ideal Jaren matchup like a lot of other teams do. Like I think the Warriors had Draymond for Jaren, and like that's you neutralize Jaren, but the Thunder don't have that guy. I think I think Memphis just kind of makes things tough. It's a really, really interesting 5-game series.
Yeah, I think so. I think Dallas just at the end of the day does have enough offensively.
Right.
But their physicality and their defense with AD and some of their wings, I think can make things a little bit interesting. Now, I don't think they ultimately win a game, but that would be like just a nerve-wracking series to have as your first round. Like if I'm Oklahoma City, I'm praying that Sacramento somehow like pulled that series out. Or pulled out the play-in stuff, because that's like the preferred first-round matchup if I'm OKC. Yes, we don't have to worry about the size or the physicality, and we just get to watch DeMar DeRozan just iso ball for 4 games or whatever. Heck yeah. Wells was awesome. Like I'm looking at their 2 lines. So basically, even if you went the starting lineup, and you swap Ja for Scottie Pippen Jr., they're like a plus 22.
Yeah.
Like that, like Memphis is, and we said at the beginning of the year or in the preseason that whenever they're healthy, they're essentially like 50-win team, and they won 48 games, 49 games this season.
Yeah.
I think they also just have the offensive explosion, the possibility for offensive explosion that Dallas just at the end of the day doesn't have, while also still being. Edie gets so much crap,
dude. I don't think he was bad in that play-in game. Like, the flaws are obvious. When they tried to run through him in the post, his decision-making was very questionable, and he turned it over 3 times, I think, in the second half. And, like, yeah, that is a problem. But in terms of what he was doing on the glass and as a rim protector, and also, like, he wasn't... I didn't come away from that game thinking, like, this guy cannot defend in space at all. Like, he was getting out on those Steph ball screens and things like that. And they were rotating behind the play. They shut down a lot of pick and rolls in that game. They forced the Warriors to do all sorts of offensive adjustments. I know you saw the frickin' inverted pick and roll, strong side kick into a handoff in the 4th quarter. That was like one of the best counters. That was like one of the best counters I've ever seen. That was beautiful. That was beautiful.
Nasty.
But I'd like to point out, that was after like a 3-minute stretch where they couldn't score at all because Edie was walling off the rim. And it's like, why? Where's the credit for that? Where's the credit for Edie like dictating Golden State's entire 4th quarter offense?
Can you guess really quickly? Golden State had 22 pick and roll ball handler scoring possessions, including pass outs. Can you guess like what Golden State's points per possession were on those 22 possessions? It's really bad. Oh, lower.
0.8? 0.5?
A tad bit higher.
0.55? 0.6?
0.68.
Okay. Which is bad.
Which is like ridiculously bad. And in the second half, it was 0.5 exactly.
Yeah.
So like, Edie was one of, if not the most impactful rookie on both ends of the floor this season.
Right.
And to your point, Memphis, with their size, with their speed, and how they want to run, can make it, again, like a super interesting and nerve-wracking 5-game series that OKC still wins. And it's not much of a series at the end of the day. Because I don't think Memphis realistically has a chance of winning. But it'll be a fun, energetic 5-game series that we all just know. I want to say Golden State. That we all know OKC wins at the end of the day.
Yeah, and also on the Edie point, he was matched up with Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler was his matchup for the first 3 quarters of that game. How many 7'4" guys do you know that can guard Jimmy Butler? Like, he was at a disadvantage from the start because they were trying to get freaky with the matchups. Like, you know he's not going to be able to stay in front of Jimmy Butler. He's 7'4", 300 pounds. And that doesn't mean he's a liability. Like, Edie was perfectly fine in that game, and I feel very good about his projection moving forward. So, yeah, shout out the Grizzlies. I think they got something brewing. I have seen a lot of takes about them, like, blowing up this installment of the team. I say just keep letting it ride. Like, they're still growing. They're a very young team. Their starting 5 is super young. Is the oldest player in their starting 5 Jaren?
fully healthy,
it's gotta be.
or Desmond.
Let me see. So Desmond Bane's 26.
I feel like Jaren's younger.
Jaren's
than that.
25. So
Yeah.
it's Jaren and Bane, 25, 26 are the two oldest. Like, let it ride, man. You're chilling. You're not in a rush. Your team is young. Like, maybe if like someone like a Kevin Durant becomes available, see what you can do, or just like Devin Booker, see what you can do, but don't blow it. Don't look for a reason to blow it up. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think Memphis is fine. I wonder what they do with. I honestly forget who the interim coach is, like what his name is, but I'm curious to see if curious to see if they kind of let that rock out heading into next year. Memphis, I know we're doing a playoff preview, but I'm curious. What do you think? What do you think the direction needs to be going forward offensively? Like, are we just going back to Ja? You're gonna like run 1-5 pick and roll 30 times a game with Edie, and we're gonna space the floor out with shooters? Because if that's the case, I would almost argue if there is any change that you make, then in terms of blowing this up, then the change would be Jaren, personally.
I don't know. I don't know if they have to have like a. It's weird because Memphis is in a situation where I feel like they don't have a go-to action.
Yeah.
But I could see them going in a lot of directions where it's like, with this current installment, you have a lot of options you can go to. Like we saw in the Golden State game, they made a few different adjustments. They did early ball screens for Ja and Bane. They did high pick and roll for Ja to attack Quentin Post and Kevon Looney in drop coverage. They did Jaren Jackson isolations and post-ups. They did Edie post-ups against the small ball lineup to attack the fact that he's a foot taller than anyone on the Warriors starting five. They did a lot. They also did, once Edie got into foul trouble, they moved Jaren to the 5, and then they started doing 1-5 pick and roll with Jaren, and it was mostly pick and pop stuff. And the offense was functioning well when they went to all of these different looks. They just happened to be facing a team that had GP2, Jimmy, and Draymond, so it was like whatever they did kind of got blown up in some form. But yeah, I don't know if there's like a direction you need to go in offensively. I think kind of their superpower going forward is the fact that they have so many options, if that makes sense. And then it's like, if you have to fall back on something, yeah, you probably want to build the chemistry with Ja and Edie in the pick and roll, or maybe even keep leaning into that Ja and Jaren pick and pop with Edie playing from the deep dunker. That's pretty dangerous.
Yeah, and really quickly, I went back to watch the final few possessions, pick and roll wise, and watching Edie as like an anchor and a rim to turn. He was completely fine. He was actually like really, really good. Just going back and watching it.
He had some possessions where it was like, yeah, he had some really nasty possessions.
They were able to switch a ball scheme with him and Jaren. And he got to, now play the dunker. They did a little bit of they pre-switched one action where he got to stay along the baseline and deter Steph from trying to go to the rim. And Steph kind of shoots a fadeaway on the left side that is a win for a defense over Steph trying to get a layup at the rim. And final note on Memphis, I made a point on another pod talking about like this draft class that got so much crap for being a weaker draft class. And at the end of the day, you walk out of this draft class with at least 5 starting centers and 1 TBD being Deron Holmes. Khalil Ware, long-term starter. Yves Missi, for at least the time being, is going to be the starter going forward. Zach Edey is, like I said, the most impactful player this year in this draft class, arguably. Alex Sarr, long-term starter, one of the guys they're building with. And Donovan Clingan, long-term starter, really, really, really good player already year one. Like, for a bad class, it's really, really good players in it. Who would have thought?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And maybe we haven't seen like the superstar emerge yet, like in some draft classes, but I'm looking at it now, like, yeah, just lots of good names, even deep into the draft. At 29, Isaiah Collier. At 28, Ryan Dunn. At 27, Terrence Shannon Jr. At 25 or 24, Keyshawn George. 38, AJ Mitchell. 32, another. Mitchell. I would also say Kyle Filipowski. It looks like he's going to be
Filipowski.
He was 32nd.
Utah won the draft, I thought. Like, they had like Collier at a top 10 draft, at a top 10 grade on, and 52 he falls to 29.
Quentin Post.
Yeah.
Like, bro, and shout out to Quentin Post, because one of my takeaways from the play-in game, I tweeted this during the game. There are bigs who can shoot,
and then there's
Quentin Post.
Yeah.
He shot 41% from 3 on 4 attempts a game this season, only playing like 16 minutes a game. Like he's like coming off of movement, he's trailing in transition. He's a big time floor spacer, and I think the Warriors offense is just so dangerous anytime they're able to find him minutes. And maybe we should segue into the Warriors Rockets.
I was just about to say that.
Because I think this is a series where you can get Quentin Post on the floor. Because Quentin Post, the only reason he wouldn't be able to stay on the floor is if you're attacking him in 1-5 pick and roll. And in order to do that, you have to space the floor for a guard who is a dynamic threat. Jalen Green, I think, is a dynamic pick and roll threat. We'll wait to see what he looks like dealing with Moody and GP2, likely giving him full court pressure. But the Rockets don't have that type of spacing around Jalen to where you're comfortable saying, okay, we can put Post in the action and just carve out space. Like, Draymond's going to be roaming. Jimmy's going to be roaming. So I think you can get Post on the floor for like 25 minutes. And then what do you do offensively? Like, what do you do offensively against a lineup of, let's say the lineup is Steph, GP2, Jimmy, Draymond, Post. What do you do defensively against that lineup?
If you're Houston?
Yeah.
You said Steph, GP2, Jimmy, Draymond, Post?
Post, yeah. Or you could even swap GP2 for Moody if you want that extra shooter.
Yeah. This is going to be fun. It's going to be a really, really fun series.
Yeah.
I think I saw a tweet that like put the 3 best Warrior scores so like Steph, Jimmy, and Pods, I think, and then the Rockets, Jalen Green, Amen Thompson, Sengun, and like their true shooting and their points per game or points per 75, maybe it was.
Yeah.
In their matchups against each other, and they're all like -10 true shooting and like -10 points off their average. Or it's like Sengun. Sengun's the only guy that was somewhat fine. Sengun was like 17 points per game on like maybe 55%
this
true
was
shooting.
From Carson, by the way. That was a tweet from Carson.
Oh,
from
that's okay. Shout out Carson. Where we kind of like want to start on this series?
I think we start with I honestly, like, my mind immediately goes to the fact that this is a huge clash in styles.
Yeah.
Like we have a team, an offense that is built on movement, spacing, speed, and then being small. And then we have an offense that's built on, we are going to get 17 second chance opportunities because we are going to run 2 centers together. We're going to run the best rebounding wing in the league with those 2 centers. We're going to have another rebounding wing and then another rebounding wing. Our shortest guy on the court is going to be 6'7", and we are going to just do everything we can to create second chance, basically play like a 2004 elite offense. And it is just going to be such a weird series. My mind immediately goes to, and I'm curious for your take on this. I do think Jimmy Butler, so I think we're both at the point where playoff Jimmy's a real thing. Like between the Clippers game and then the Grizzlies game, there's clearly another gear still that he can get to as a scorer and as an isolation creator. The problem is, I think, especially in the Memphis game, that is Memphis is a really weird team where they don't have any wings. Like, they go from Desmond Bane, 6'4", to Jaren Jackson, who's essentially a big. And then the only wing that they sprinkled in at all in that game was Vince Williams and then a little bit of John Conchar. And neither of those guys really played much. They don't have any big wings. So what happened with Jimmy is, if he had Edie on him for most of the game, huge speed advantage. If he had Aldama on him, huge speed advantage. If he had Bane on him or Pippen or whoever, any of those guards, huge strength advantage. And the one thing Jimmy feasts off of is mismatches. They moved Jaren onto him in the 4th, and what happens? He didn't score a single point on Jaren. He had like one drive where he ran into Edie. He got stopped on one possession. I don't think he drew a foul on Jaren. Like, just didn't score on Jaren. And my problem with that is, because Jimmy relies on mismatches, who are you looking for in the Houston series? Because it's not Tari Eason. It's not Amen Thompson. It's not Dylan Brooks. They're going to start Dylan Brooks on him, I'd assume. It's not Dylan Brooks. It's like you're hunting for Van Vliet. They're just going to put 2 on the ball. So, yeah, that's my question. Like, what do you do if you're the Warriors? That's kind of where I want to start. If you're the Warriors, what are you looking to do to get Jimmy involved or get Jimmy a mismatch? Because you kind of need that second presence as a creator when you have a guy like Amen who's just going to be chasing Steph everywhere and they're going to be putting 2 on the ball. What do you do to get Jimmy involved?
I think some of the inverted stuff will be. I actually expect a large portion of Jimmy's offense to just come from some of their misdirection stuff, where they go Steph setting a screen. One of their favorite concepts, especially like side out situations, or even if they're trying to like set Steph up, is to just have Jimmy be a screener for Steph, and Jimmy is an elite cutter and then immediately being able to seal you off and gain inside positioning. That's how he gets a lot of his fouls at the rim too that are not created off him just driving. It's how, going back to that, last play or one of the last possessions of that Warriors-Grizzlies game, anytime you're able to use Steph as a screener or be able to put those two guys together, I think we'll be able to create some sort of either downhill advantage for Jimmy, open cutting lane for Jimmy, and eventually I think teams oftentimes just overcommit on the Steph, on the possibility of Steph coming off and hitting a 3, that Steph is also just an all-time level cutter, and he's able to reject, and Draymond is the initiator. I would expect to see a lot of sort of that stuff, because then it does 2 things. One, it kind of eases some of the pressure with Steph, so Steph isn't getting held at 94 feet for 40 minutes or whatever for a 7-game series by Amen Thompson or some iteration of Dylan Brooks and vice versa.
Probably some Van Vliet, too.
And Van Vliet. And then it also allows Jimmy to be used as a screener, as a cutter, and just get some easy baskets for Jimmy. I think you try to see, and also by doing this, so let's say, okay, I think Amen's going to be the primary defender for Steph, especially early. I think in some lineups where Fred's on the floor, I think you try to attack Fred in some similar actions, and because then it's just going to create one or 2 things. Either you force a switch, and now Jimmy gets to try to isolate Fred and mismatch on a little bit, or you don't want Fred on Jimmy, and now we're going to show and try to recover back and let Dylan Brooks, or for example, if Dylan's guarding Jimmy, allow Dylan to get back. Okay, now it's Steph kind of roaming freely, at least temporarily. You get a secondary screen from Draymond or whoever. Now Steph's open. So I would expect a lot of 3-man action, some inverted stuff. And then, honestly, I think you still just test Jimmy and see, look, we're just going to, let you go one-on-one against even some of their better perimeter options and see if we can get them into foul trouble, let you be a downhill creator at the rim. I think it's going to be a combination of all 3 of those things, if that makes sense.
Interesting. So, I think I'm with you. My next question for you is, I don't even know. Yeah, so how do you think the Rockets do their matchups against the Warriors starting 5? I think Amen on Steph's a given.
Have you done your deep dive on the series yet?
This is the other series that I haven't done the deep dive yet.
Okay.
So these are the 2 I'm going to do in the next 2 days: Clippers, Nuggets, and Warriors, Rockets. So I'm a bit uneducated. I haven't rewatched the recent game where Steph shot 1 for 10. So that's the one that I really need to tap in. But
because they play Sunday,
I think
right?
the only given to me is Amen on Steph, right?
Yeah, and then if they go 2 bigs, are we assuming they're going to go 2 bigs? Do they?
They're not going to start. They're not going to start with that.
Okay.
So they're not going to start with that. They usually, when I made my Rockets video, I paid close attention to the rotations. What they usually do is they go to a normal lineup for the first 8 minutes of the first quarter, and then around the 4-minute mark, they take Şengün out for Adams. They run Adams for 1 minute, and then they bring Şengün back in to close out the first. And then the last 3 minutes of the first, they basically see, okay, what's the double bigs looking like? If they do good, then they leave them in to start the second. And this is one thing that I think is especially a problem for the Warriors, because that means the double big minutes are on the opposite end of the Steph minutes. So you aren't able to attack the double bigs in screening action because Steph's on the bench, if that makes sense. So the double big almost feels like it's more effective against Golden State if they stick with that rotation.
Okay, so are we starting Jabari or Tari?
I think we start neither. It'd be neither, I think. It'd be Fred, Jalen, Brooks, Amen, Şengün.
I'm tripping. Okay. So then, Amen on Steph.
I'd go Brooks on Jimmy pretty easily.
Brooks on Jimmy. Fred on Pods then probably, or do you go
Probably.
Jalen?
Jalen on Moody, probably.
Yeah, Jalen on Moody. I like that. And then
Şengün on Draymond.
Yeah, I
And
like
I
that.
think the Warriors usually like to start with Steph, Draymond, pick and roll. I think Şengün just blitzes that. I think they're going to put 2 on the ball pretty much every time. And then force Draymond to make plays. It's tough because, like, the Rockets have so much size and athleticism. Like, I think Van Vliet, for all of what he lacks as a size, like, or in terms of size and athleticism, is just one of the smartest rotators behind the play in the league. So he's the guy that probably is going to be stepping over to tag Draymond or even just scrambling out of it. Because regardless of who's coming over, whether it's Brooks, whether it's, I mean, maybe they do start Jabari to get that extra rim protector because Jabari's a really good rim protecting wing. Or Tari Eason, another really good rim Dude, Rockets just have so much defensive firepower, and I guess it goes back to what you kind of said about, like, you brought up the Carson tweet. This is going to be a nasty series in terms of, like, low scoring, lots of defense. Like, it's going to feel like real grinded out hoops.
I think this goes 7.
I agree. Yeah, I'm thinking 7.
I think this goes 7. If there was a series for me to bet on it going 7, it would probably be this one.
I think it might be the only one I have going 7, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's the only one I have going 7. And I could see a couple others going 7, but, like, concretely, like, in my final prediction, I think this is the only one I have making it to 7 games. Because, yeah, like it's going to be back and forth. It's going to be slow. It's going to be grimy hoops. And, honestly, like, I feel like in those types of series, the team that usually has the advantage is the one that wins the possession game. Like, historically.
Yeah.
And that is the Rockets. The Rockets are going to dominate the possession game with their offensive rebounds and the way they take care of the ball. But also, on the other side of that, sometimes these series are decided by which team has the more reliable offensive number one.
It's one of those two options always.
But also, like, what do we do with the fact that, like, I also feel like the types of players that win these series are like Jimmy and Draymond. Like, can you see Draymond getting into, like, a low-scoring, grinded-out series and then losing? Does that even sound right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Dude, this is my favorite series, easily, in the first round.
Yeah. To your point about the possession battle, since the All-Star break, number one, and obviously in offensive rebound percentage, is Houston. They 36% offensive rebounding percentage, which is just stupid. By the way, third on this list is the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they're at 32%. So there is a 4% gap between Houston at 1 and Cleveland at 3. The gap between Cleveland at 3 and the number 12 team, which is the Timberwolves, is 2%, which is ridiculous. Golden State's a good offensive rebounding team too. They're 6th, and Houston's also the best defensive rebounding team in the league. Golden State's 11th. It's just gonna be, like you said, just this ultra grimy, get out the mud, 85 to 80. It's gonna for all the old heads. Well, whatever happened to defense and mid 2000s hoops? Whatever happened to that's good shit. That's gonna be this series.
Can I also point out that the Adams and Şengün lineups specifically have a 51 offensive rebounding percentage?
Yeah, I think we talked about that.
Yeah, like, dude. Yeah, and that's like, Amen is averaging 3 offensive rebounds per 75. Şengün's averaging 4, and Adams is averaging 7.7. Which is the most ever, by the way. That's the most ever in a season. That's more than Rodman. That's more than Moses Malone. That's more than Drummond. Adams is the best offensive rebounder statistically in NBA history right now. And then you have, like, also Eason and Jabari, I think, are both averaging, like, 2. I think Jalen Green's a pretty good offensive rebounder for his position. I could be just making that up. I feel like I've seen him grab offensive rebounds. Yeah, dude.
I without watching, like, in depth the most recent Warriors Rockets game, I lean Warriors in 7. And it's like a slight lean, honestly. I don't feel good about it. At first, when I made my prediction on Twitter, I said Knicks-Pistons was the series I felt the worst about. I actually feel like pretty easily the worst about this series now. In terms of, like, making a prediction. I'm going to lean Warriors in 7 because kind of like what you said, I don't see, like, Draymond losing as, like, get out the mud series where he just gets to be like the ultimate prick defensively and like wreak havoc. And then also
like Draymond against a team that's playing like 3 non-shooters for most of the game.
Yeah. And then I still just trust the creation ability from Jimmy and Steph. And these like, you got to like get a bucket somehow. And now to your point, actually, if I'm going to reference the Deja Vu episode really quickly, one of the points that you made that kind of stuck with me, and I mean, obviously is a good point enough for me to reference it now, is Houston, and maybe this wasn't the Deja Vu episode. This might have been the Power Rankings episode. Houston has enough in terms of guys that Fred's going to have a night where he just hits 7 threes. Sengun's going to have a game where he just looks unstoppable out of the post. The little mid-range, the mid-range shot is hitting. He's, getting into more of the playmaking stuff as well. You got to get a game where Dylan Brooks just hits 3, 4, 5 threes. So you feel like what the hell, or what the hell?
Yeah.
And like Tari, Jabari, Amen, or Amen. And then the fact that their best offense, legitimately for a game, their best offense is going to be them just rebounding half their shots. And that might be enough. So this is why I feel the worst about my prediction this series. I lean Golden State because of the half-court creation and Draymond. Like, he's going to thrive in a series like this. But I don't know. I don't feel good about that pick at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's also just like some weird advantages the Rockets have. Like, Steph's going to have to guard Van Vliet, which is like a weird advantage because Van Vliet likes to run pick and roll, and now you have Steph trying to navigate screens and things like that. I also think Şengün with the size advantage, like Şengün's one of the most efficient post-up scorers in the league. Yeah. Like Şengün is a low true shooting percentage guy because he's a bad play finisher. But in terms of like the self-created stuff, he's a very efficient post-up guy. And then he's also a really good passer. So it's like, and then they don't have the rim protection behind the play to guard. Like, if Şengün draws a double, so hypothetically, we're going to assume the double big lineups on the court. Şengün draws a double. Who is sinking to box out Adams? And after that, who's guarding a man on a cut? Yeah. Like, there's just so much pressure they can put on the rim without spacing the floor that gives them a weird advantage in this type of series where there's not going to be much offense anyways. Like, that's the advantage for the Rockets, right? Because we're talking about, like, getting it out of the mud. The Rockets have been getting it out of the mud the entire season. That's what they want to do. They aren't an efficient shooting team, but they win the possession game. They kill you on defense. They get out in transition. And this just feels like their type of series. But I'm kind of like backpacking off of you. Like, the benefit of the doubt thing really sticks with me when I look at Golden State. And I'm like, if you get into a game 7 with that team, how likely is it that you make it out, even if you are in Houston? That's what's tough. Like, I feel like, am I crazy for thinking the Rockets have a better, not better chance, but I feel like I'd feel better about Houston winning a game 6 in Golden State than them beating Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond in a game 7. Does that make sense?
You say you feel better about Houston winning a closeout game 6 in Golden State
than a game 7 on their own floor against Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond.
Yeah. No,
it's weird.
I can.
It feels backwards, but it's just like that's like the mental aspect of sports to me. Like, it's the stuff you can't quantify, you know?
There's 58 players this season that have averaged at least one post-up per game, per Synergy. Alfred Sengun is the 22nd most efficient player.
And I think he's 4th in points per game. I think he's 4th in volume behind Jokic, Zoo, and who'd be the other guy? AD? Is he 4th in volume? Or is he 3rd?
In volume,
I feel like Jokic and Zoo. I think he's 4th, but I can't remember who would be. I know Jokic and Zoo are ahead of him.
Yeah, I don't know. My Synergy's bugging, but I believe you.
All right, let's go. We just made up a stat. Nice.
There we go. Oh wait, never mind. We're good. Okay, 1 Jokic. Actually, I mean, do we count Embiid?
No, don't count Embiid.
Okay, so Jokic, and then actually Sengun, Zubac, Giannis are all tied. They all average like 4 scoring possessions out of the post per game.
Yeah. Okay.
Kristaps shortly behind.
Yeah, we're both Warriors in 7, but that's the one that was the hardest to me. That I couldn't like, even now, I can't confidently land on a pick. Whereas the other ones, I feel pretty decent. Not that I can't see the other team winning the series, but I do feel pretty strongly about my pick. So I actually think right so far we're on the exact same page. I think we both had either Thunder in 5 or Thunder in a sweep. We both had Celtics in a sweep. We both had Clippers in 6, and we both had Warriors in 7. Is that all the ones we've covered so far?
Yes.
Let's go ahead and get Cavs series out of the way, because I think that's an easy... I think it's 4 against the Hawks, 5 against the Heat.
Yeah, but I don't even think it matters.
And do we even need to talk about it? They just have every advantage.
I'm assuming like Miami, it's like they can match Jarrett and Mobley size-wise with Bam and
then
Khalil.
they'll have a hot shooting night. Like Hero and Duncan Robinson will have a hot shooting night. And then also and like
Spo.
The defense, like Davion Mitchell's going to give them hell at the point of attack.
That's going to be like a sicko fun series to watch.
Oh, yeah, it will. I mean, the Cavs are going to easily win, I think. I don't even want to say they're going to easily win, because I also thought the Celtics were going to easily win. I think 5. Because the Cavs still have so much firepower.
Yeah.
But, like, I also thought the Celtics were going to easily beat the Heat in 2023. And then they went down 3-0. So what do I know? What do I know? Okay. We've got three matchups left. Let's finish out the West. Let's go Lakers Wolves. Right. And the reason I want to go here next is because you made a tweet today. Last time we talked, we were both Lakers in 6. And we'll talk about why. But you went Lakers in 5. You got a little bit more confident. What'd you see? What'd you see on the tape?
So I am doing a film breakdown. Finally, I know I've been saying film breakdowns all year. I'm like, I have another pod to do after this, and then I'm going to be doing that tonight. So it is going to happen. I think, first off, this is why watching basketball is so fun, because I'm like, all right, Ant's a problem. Ant's ridiculous. Then you watch him, like, purposefully, if that makes sense, with, like, an intent to, like, pick up some stuff. You're like, damn, this dude's insane. I think when I texted you, it was when I was in the middle of, like, watching. I'm like, dog, I think I said Ant's just insane. And
I replied Hooper.
It's just Hooper. You like hit the exclamation mark on the message, just said Hooper. Or you let one of the two. And I honestly, and this might be exaggerative, if Anthony Edwards, and this pissed Laker fans off to oblivion, and I don't care. I think I put on Twitter, so yeah, excuse me being exaggerative, but like if Anthony Edwards was to shoot 50% from the mid-range in the playoffs again, I legitimately think that's one of the five best playoff scorers ever, because he's just scheme proof at that point. Because I think the Lakers, a part of the Lakers strategy in this series is going to be, look, we're going to, in my opinion, it should be, look, we're going to, and we did talk about this, we're going to switch out aggressively. We're not going to just let you walk into clean pull-up threes. We're going to zone up away from the ball, force these other guys to shoot. And when you do drive, you're going to drive, hopefully, into a gap defender, and we're going to force you to shoot contested pull-up twos. And we're going to try our best to keep you out of the paint and keep you from, especially when the Lakers go centerless, keep you from being able to just attack like a Rui as our low man at the rim. Like I said, we're going to force you to shoot the floaters and the mid-range pull-ups. Well, that just completely goes down the drain if Ant's just like a 45% plus pull-up two-point shooter again. And then at that point, it's like, what do you do? And that's why I said that. And again, not top 5 offensive playoff player, because I still think there's some like gaps in the playmaking and decision-making in general. But is that like a hot? I don't know what you do with Ant as a scorer if with the pull-up three-point shooting and him just being like the second best three-point shooter on the planet this season behind Steph, and the slashing ability, the fact that the two-point scoring has came back so significantly post All-Star break. Like he went from being, I want to say I had it at 46% as a two-point scorer and like 59% at the rim in the first half of the season. And then post All-Star break, it's been 71% at the rim and 59% from two on top of the three-point stuff. So I'm like, what do you do with Ant? So, and I'm honestly making my argument less for why I'd said Lakers at 5. I just wanted to say that because Ant's ridiculous. The reason why I think it's Lakers in 5, though, is it honestly boils down to this. I don't love what Minnesota's defensive options, and if we go back to the idea of we're going to force you to adjust before the series even starts, like what does Minnesota do when the Lakers go small? And maybe you're just being a little bit more confident, a little more bold with the pick, because I could very easily still see this going 6 or maybe even 7. But they do not have a good Luka defender. If I have one more Minnesota Timberwolves fan tell me and try to convince me into saying I keep saying Jordan, that Jaden McDaniels is a legitimately good Luka defender, I'm going to lose it. They don't have a good Luka defender. And do you think Jaden's a good Bron option even?
No.
So the Lakers, your best on-ball perimeter defender, I would actually argue, is probably going to be better off being utilized guarding Austin. And then the idea being we just take away Austin from this series and like make Bron and Luka have to be Superman. Mm-hmm. But then the problem with that is, okay, now we're just not even going to go to Austin. And it's not like you can roam and play free safety off of Austin either, because he'll just hit 40% of his catch-and-shoot threes.
So you just neutralize Jaden's defensive impact, essentially.
You neutralize Jaden's defensive impact, and then when the Lakers do go small, the Timberwolves have a obvious physicality and offensive rebounding advantage, but the Lakers just be able to spread Rudy out. And I actually think, and this is something I'm going to talk about in the video, I think Rudy doesn't get a lot of credit for his agility and drop. Like, he plays the two-man game and the cat and mouse game better than basically anybody in the league.
Yeah, he's the best at it. He's the best.
Like, the only other guy that I would argue is even close is Anthony Davis.
And then probably Wemby, just because Wemby has the freakiest freaking...
But in terms of technique, it's still Rudy.
Oh, yeah, no, technique is definitely Rudy. But I'm just saying, Wemby just being there is just kind of like...
Yeah.
What do you do against that?
And I'm not going to lie, I'm just not sold on Randall in this series, personally. Because then my argument is, I think players that have easy tendencies to pick up on in a playoff series against LeBron, it just isn't going to pan out well. And I think with the mismatch hunting and him posting up certain guys, I think his tendencies are really easy to pick up on. I think he'll be able to get a decent chunk of blind steals on Julius Randle. If he's posting up on the left block, okay. If he drop steps, he's trying to get to the left hand at the rim. Or if he's still dribbling with his right hand, where he's just going to go 1-2 bump into a fade. And flip that on the right side of the floor if it's like a inverted PNR and you switch it and he's posting up Austin. No. If he's dribbling with his left on the right side, it's going to be bump bait. No, my bad. Bump, try to get to the rim with the left, dribbling with the right. It's easy pickup tendencies, if that makes sense. And it's really going to come down to, like, can the role players for both sides hit shots, and can LA, like, neutralize the offensive rebounding advantage when they go small? I know I just rambled a little bit, but I'm just kind of going to be a little bit more bold and aggressive with saying Lakers in 5, although Ant's ridiculous, and I'm not all the way convinced that they can keep Minnesota off the glass. And, like, can the Lakers role players hit shots consistently?
Yeah. Okay, there's a lot. There's a lot there.
I know I just rambled for like 5 minutes.
No, I like that. I like that because you just put another idea in my head. But I'm going to start with this. Going back to the NBA University tweets about the lineups earlier, I pointed out one thing.
Yep.
On the defensive list, number 3 on the defensive list was Edwards, Alexander Walker, Jaden, Nas, Gobert. They were the third best 5-man defense in the NBA. If you swap Gobert for Randall, so your lineup is Edwards, Alexander Walker, Jaden, Reed, Randall. That was the number 1 offensive lineup in the NBA. So my takeaway is like, okay, that is a superpower. Like, the fact that you can just, like, obviously it's not the best offense and the best defense, but, like, if you can just swap one guy and basically lean into something so special, I feel like that is a huge superpower that the Wolves have. And I actually think the counter to what you're saying with the small ball is to go to that offensive-centric lineup and basically just say, look, we won't even try that hard to stop you. We're just going to try to outgun you on the other end. We're going to go Edwards and Randall hunting for mismatches, and then we're going to surround those guys with a bunch of shooters. I actually think Alexander Walker ends up playing like 30 minutes a game in this series. And then that kind of solves your defensive problem because, like you said, there's not a Luka stopper. But if you get Alexander Walker on Luka, I'm not mad at that. Like that's probably one of your better options. And then you get Edwards on LeBron. Again, not a great, you don't love it. Or you go Randall on LeBron and then Edwards on whoever. I don't love it, but when you're going up against guys,
situation probably checks Austin.
Yeah. And it's like when you're going up against Luka and LeBron, there's no option you're gonna love. That's what I hate about when we talk about offensive teams that are this talented. Like, people were in my comments saying, like, oh, yep, you're leaving Dorian Finney-Smith and Rui Hachimura open. That's a death sentence. And it's like, you have to pick your poison against a team that's this talented. You have to give up something. You have to do something. So my question, though, is, like, I do think there's a pathway where the Wolves just outgun the Lakers because, no, they don't have the same type of, like, top-end offensive playmaking talent. But if you're just hunting for mismatches and consistently getting 40% shooters open, there's a real pathway to just winning the series off of sheer shooting. Like, I think that's actually exactly what happened in the Miami-Boston series, where nobody gave Miami a chance, and then they just shot, like, 46% from three. And it was like, oh, what do you do with that? There's nothing you can do with that. Right. And that's, like... Here's my question, though. Like, I actually think this is a big Chris Finch series because I'm thinking about it in my head. I'm like, if Joe Mazzulla was coaching the Wolves in this series, like, they'd do some sicko stuff to manipulate the floor. Like, for example, here's where my mind goes, right? Picture an Anthony Edwards isolation from the right wing, okay? Picture an Anthony Edwards isolation from the right wing. Going off of how the Lakers typically like to play defense. Let's say...
I think I know where you're going with this. I'm grabbing my whiteboard.
Let's say he got the switch onto Luka, right? Because they're probably going to hunt for Luka to switch because Edwards wants to blow by Luka. So I'm going to say Edwards has Luka switched onto him on the right wing. If the Lakers are doing what they typically do defensively, they are going to have Luka push Edwards towards the corner. They're going to push him baseline, right? They're going to take away the middle, push Edwards baseline.
We're going empty corner?
What?
Are we going empty corner?
Empty corner, yep. Wolves have an empty corner. And that means whoever's on the left side of the floor for the Lakers, on the weak side, whoever the weak side defender is going to cheat over and play the block, right? So here's my question, right? I think if I was coaching the Wolves, and I'm going to assume Alexander Walker's on the court, I am putting Alexander Walker on the left block. I'm putting him in left dunker, deep dunker, because that means Reeves is going to be the low man, right? So now the Lakers are put into a tough position. Does Reeves come over to the strong side block, and is he that load-up guy? Because Edwards is going to get around Luka. Do you trust Reeves to consistently stop Edwards with a full head of steam from just getting a layup or a dunk every time, right? So what I imagine the Lakers do is they pre-switch that. They don't have Reeves cheat over. They instead bring over LeBron or Rui, right? Who's probably matched up with Randall. So what I do if I'm the Wolves, I spot Randall up in the left corner. Now, Reeves doesn't step over. They bring LeBron over. Reeves switches onto Randall. Now with Edwards, what I do is I just swing the ball top of the key, get it over to Randall. Now Randall has Reeves on him. And now you start your offense.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, I think the Wolves just have a lot of, and that's just like one scenario that I kind of came up with while you were talking. Like, the Wolves just have a lot of options to get mismatches. And it puts the Lakers in a really weird spot. So I do think this is going to end up being just a really high scoring series.
Yeah. And I think with LA, and I think I would argue, and follow me here. I think you keep that corner as a shooter. And I think you go Randall in the slot. I think you go Randall in the slot because then you almost so let's say like the lineup is, let's go like Dante, Nas and Randall. Okay.
Yeah.
I think you go shooter. Like let's go Dante weak side corner. That's like okay, Dante just clears out. To get the empty corner, Dante clears all the way through to that left corner, because now you are more likely to get that to be automatically Austin. And even if you pre-switch that, and you bump Austin up the line to where Austin now guarding like the wing or the top, that's Nas, that's Randall. And now you're putting LA in a more, it just easily creates the mismatch where if we're doing swing and it gets all the way over, I think LA could just easily like scram switch and get back to a somewhat ideal matchup.
But then you get like Randall stampeding potentially, which I think is kind of scary too.
You can also do that.
Dude, another thing, what about this? What if you go Nas in that corner, Randall in the slot? And I want to say
Dante
Ant
one pass away.
Well, I was going to say that too, yeah. Ant is more than capable of making that skip pass at this point. Like, he can make the corner-to-corner skip pass. He's been making it consistently for a couple months now. Here's my question: what if you go, you go and Reed in that corner, Randall in the slot, Ant makes the skip to Reed, and now the
Reed in the
Lakers have a.
slot? You said Reed in
did I
the
say
slot,
Reed in the
Randall in the
slot?
corner?
No, Reed in the corner. Reed in the corner.
My bad.
Randall in the slot.
Okay.
Nah in the dunker, and let's say Reeves is matched up with Nah. Let's say Reeves pre-switches. So whoever's on Reed, I would assume it's like Rui. Let's say Rui's on Reed.
Sure.
They send Rui over to the strong side to load up on Ant. Reeves is on Reed now, or I guess he's technically still in the dunker because he's gonna keep dropping down.
Yeah.
Ant skips it to Reed, then you go immediate handoff to Randall to turn the corner baseline going at Reeves.
Yeah, because Reeves would be the pickup guy. And as long as you get a good, like, kind of clip.
And then you have Nah, either just sprint to the opposite corner or clear out top of the key.
Yeah, probably just clear out top, honestly.
And then you shift DiVincenzo down towards Ant.
Yeah, and then as long as you get a decent clip on the handoff guy, because there's still going to be like 2-on-1 on the weak side, you get an easy like clip. Then Randall's able to just get a downhill driving lane,
and then the entire defense is in rotation, and now you have Randall attacking downhill, and your options on the perimeter are Nah, Ant, DiVincenzo, Reed.
Yeah, now
that's a lot of freaking shooting.
Rui will be the rotator. He'll be the guy that tries to potentially load up and stop the drive, but then again, you're still scrambling. I will say this: so I think the Lakers especially when they're locked in defense. So I do think they do a really, really good job of rotating and like quickly sprinting out. I like the idea of going Dante one pass away or really just any shooter one pass away, because how the Lakers aggressively zone up is okay. So if we're funneling towards the baseline, Luka's shading baseline. We already have the strong side block occupied. The guy one pass away is like damn near like right behind Luka.
Yeah.
To the point where you only have one option is to go baseline. If you come back middle, there's aggressive help already there. It'll be fun. It'll be a really, really fun like tactical series.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm saying. Like I think this goes back to what I said though about the team that forces the adjustments has the automatic advantage. Like we're talking about all these creative things that Timberwolves can do to seek out mismatches and get a lot of shooting on the court and things of that nature. Whereas the Lakers, pretty much the only adjustment is let's go smaller and let's get 5 out and now let's do our normal offense. And I feel like Mike Conley probably it doesn't play much in the series because he's a big mismatch. Gobert's gonna have. I don't think Gobert will have that tough of a time playing in space, but it does create a weird
the lateral rotations, be able to like protect at the rim and then also close back out on the shooters.
It's like you limit his individual impact. Like the whole reason for having him on the court is the rim protection. So if you would just make that even slightly less valuable, it doesn't make much sense to have him on the floor over Reed for that extra shooting. Yeah. So I do think the Lakers just have a clear tactical advantage. They have a clear talent advantage in terms of top end offensive talent. And then going back, this is going to be a deja vu moment, but going back to what I said in the last episode, the ultimate like deciding factor for me was fourth quarters. It was fourth quarters. Like the Timberwolves offense can get really flaky against zones, against aggressive help, because they just don't have the level of decision making that the Lakers do. And then if you get into late game situations, like the scenario I gave you was it's 100-100, 3 minutes left in all seven of the games. How many games does it take the Lakers to eliminate that series?
5. That's why I said Lakers say 5.
Yeah. So I actually think there's a very real chance that the Timberwolves outscore the Lakers in the first 3 quarters of this series. But they just don't win the series.
It's going to be that Denver Lakers graphic where it's like time led in the series? And LA's led for Lakers will lead for 2 hours, Denver leads for 30 minutes or whatever, but it's Denver up 3-0 in the series. It's going to be like that, or it's going to be like Dallas, Minnesota from last year, where I think in game 2, Dallas was getting Minnesota jumped out on Dallas in game 2, and Dallas just walked them down. Then it got to the fourth quarter, and that's where it's okay again. The decision making, the playmaking, and the just shot making of Luka really just like won them the game, and like Kyrie and the other guys too. Obviously, like that's very easily how this series can go. Yeah. I think it'll be a really close series. I don't think either team has a great path to guarding the other, especially like their primary players. So, It'll be a fun series.
So I got Lakers in 6, maybe 7. I leaned 6, and I could also see Lakers in 5. I could also see Wolves in 6 or 7. I think last time I actually ranked my most likely outcomes. It was Lakers in 6, then Lakers in 7, then Wolves in 7, then Lakers in 5, then Wolves in 6. Would be kind of where my head's at right now. And I actually think I think just because the Lakers fan base is so loud, like you can't say that the Wolves have a chance to win the series. Like you would be crucified if you said that on Twitter.
The Wolves have a chance to win the series.
Right. Even the smallest chance. Like I
picked the Thunder to beat them in the conference finals. Now, granted, I said in 7. Everybody's like, "Oh my god!" LeBron's losing a game 7. Has LeBron not lost game 7s before?
when I in the 2023 playoffs, when I predicted Denver to beat LA,
how many games did you have it?
I think I didn't pick a game. I think I just said the Nuggets are going to destroy I think I said something like, everyone wants this to be a series, but the Nuggets are going to destroy the Lakers. And it had over 1,000 bookmarks and like 900 replies. And after that series, the bookmarks slowly went down. Comments were getting deleted. It was fun to see in real time. But I also think that's part of what makes the playoffs fun. Like, I like a loud fan base because it just makes things more interesting. And it also puts me in a position where I feel like I have to do more homework because I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to be uneducated. Like anything I say, I want to be based on some kind of like factual information because I don't want to look back like, dude, imagine if I said the Nuggets were going to destroy the Lakers and then the Lakers swept them. Imagine how I'd look as an analyst and like credibility wise. You know what I'm saying? So I do think like it puts more pressure on us to at least be knowledgeable about what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, no. This is fun. This is fun. One of my more anticipated series.
This whole episode is fun. I'm really glad we redid this.
This is like 3 times better than the last episode.
Dude, the last one. If you're still listening to this, I'm so glad you guys didn't have to see the last one because we were both lagging so bad that we were basically just like trying to get to the end of the episode, and the episode wasn't even able to like finish processing or anything. It was bad.
We mailed it in after like 25. I think it wound up being like 50 minutes, but like 25 minutes in, you could tell we just like mailed it in.
It was bad, dude. There was like 15-second gaps in between each response. Dude, it was bad. We got 2 left. Where do you want to go? We got 2 Eastern Conference series left.
Let's go Pacers Bucks because I actually think with some of the news that's starting to come out, I think this could be like an even more interesting series than it would have been had we posted that last episode.
Yeah, I did the deep dive on this one today.
All right, go ahead, lead us off.
I did the deep dive today, and I kind of confirmed a lot of the stuff I already kind of talked about before in this matchup. One is that in 9 games against the Pacers in the last 2 seasons, Giannis is averaging 37, 13, and 6 on 71% true shooting.
Yeah, they can't stop Giannis.
Yeah, they can't. They can't stop Giannis at all. And I think, like, no matter who they go with the matchup, like, in these last few games, they've gone Nesmith, they've gone Siakam, they've tried some Miles Turner.
Yeah.
They've tried doubling him. They've tried trapping him at half court. They've tried walling him off. It doesn't matter. He's just too physically overwhelming for a Pacers team that doesn't have the strength to just deal with that. So first thing my mind immediately goes to is Giannis is going to torch this matchup. Like, I think even if they do everything in their power to trap him, wall him off, they're not going to be able to keep him off the offensive glass. They don't have anyone who can defend him in the post, and he's still going to get a lot of transition offense. So I think right away you can pencil him in for like 32 points per game efficiently, at least. Like, that's a given.
Yeah.
Are you with me? Like, do you agree with that, or do you think there's something the Pacers can do to like keep him under 30?
No, because then like this, I think Indiana has a sneaky good defense in general. I think they've been that for especially post All-Star break. One of the things I noticed, like going back and I did watch some stuff, specifically like Giannis's scoring explosions against them recently. When Milwaukee goes empty side ball screen with like Dame and Giannis, and fun way to potentially introduce the Dame stuff because Dame's practicing now. He's been cleared of his situation with the blood clots, and I think it's the same situation as Wemby actually, right? Except his is like in his calf, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Indiana, at least in the regular season series, did like an awful job at like pre-rotating. They did not do a good job at all. It just basically led to like layup or 2 on the ball with Dame. Okay, easy, just pass it to Giannis and it's an easy dunk because the weak side guy doesn't come over in time. Especially like if it's AJ Green on that far side corner. Yeah, Indiana did not do a good job of guarding that at all. And then on top of the transition scoring, the post scoring, even the few times where they like successfully walled off Giannis just said, okay, I'm going to shoot this like 18-foot elbow jumper and hit it at a 42% clip or whatever he's at this season, and there's nothing you can do about it. So, yeah, I'm with you. There's nothing Indiana can do to guard Giannis, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I will say, when I did my deep dive, I was operating under the assumption that Dame probably wasn't going to come back. And then as I'm uploading the video, the Shams report comes out that apparently Damian Lillard made the only recovery in human history this fast from this like deep vein thrombosis, I think it is. So he's probably going to come back at some point. I would assume maybe game 3 or game 5 maybe.
In
I don't
Milwaukee.
know. Yeah, I don't know, but what I will say is I'm gonna go here. So I think Giannis, pencil him in 30, efficient 30. I think they still send everyone at him, right? I think the Pacers are going to try and go, let's make anyone else beat us. And I think this series kind of hinges on what we can expect from the role players, and not just as shooters. So I think the shooting is one thing, right? I referenced the catch and shoot 3-point numbers in my video. Brook Lopez, 37%. Kyle Kuzma, 32%. Bobby Portis, 35%. Kevin Porter Jr., 31%. And Pat Connaughton, 32%. So that's what, 5 guys right there? Yeah, 5 guys, all like 37 to 31%. And I think those are the guys that the Pacers are going to feel more than comfortable making them shoot. Like Bobby Portis, take 8 threes. Anything but this Giannis downhill attack. Like, we will live with that. I think the Pacers have an advantage there. Now, there are also a few shooters on the Bucks side that have been guys that you can't really leave open. Do you know what Taurean Prince is shooting on catch and shoot threes this year?
43%.
49.8%.
Sheesh.
49.8%. AJ Green's at 44.5%. Ryan Rollins is at 43%, and Gary Trent Jr. is at 41%. I think Trent, Prince, and Green are all proven reliable shooters over a large sample. The only one I need to see is Ryan Rollins because he's a low-volume shooter. Can he be a 43% guy in the playoffs? I don't know. He's the type of guy that I think could be like vulnerable to like, okay, we're going to give him 4 or 5 threes, and now he's 35%. And I think anytime you get a shooter below 40%, it's just an absolute win for the Pacers because we've talked about this in the past. The Bucks have no chance of guarding the Pacers at all in this series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was actually going to be my question for you. What does Milwaukee do to guard Indiana? Because essentially it's kind of felt like from the little bit I did watch that, okay, we're just going to play our traditional coverage with like Howley Turner ball screens, and when Turner pops to, the slot or to the top, we're just going to pray he misses. That's kind of what it felt like.
And you can't do that. Miles Turner's too good of a shooter. You cannot do that. I don't get that approach.
One of the games he shot like 2 for 10 from 3.
Yeah,
I think,
and it's like if that happens, good stuff, Bucks. But over 7 games, I wouldn't bet on that. I think if Brook Lopez is on Miles Turner, they are just going to put it. Every single possession is Tyrese Halliburton.
Wow.
Early ball screen. Early
drag screen.
Yes, every single possession, and it's like, okay, give me the pull-up 3, I'll make 38% of them. Don't pick up, I have a drive, and now Giannis has to help. Now I'm kicking it to a shooter. Play 2 on the ball, I'm kicking it to Turner.
Stuff. Miles is shooting 41% on transition threes, 42% on just spot-up threes, and 35% on pick-and-pop threes.
Yeah. I don't know what you do. So I essentially think if Brook Lopez is matched up with Turner, ball screen every possession, Brook Lopez is played off the floor. Now you're in a position to do one of 3 things.
Okay.
First thing you could do is try and invert the matchups. Do you go Lopez on Nesmith? Okay, now the Pacers just go guard-to-guard screening action. Guess what? Nesmith is shooting 43% on threes. Pick and pop. Pick and pop. Pick and pop every single time. Lopez, come guard this pick and pop every single time.
Okay.
Like the only non okay, do you go Lopez on Siakam? Now we're just same thing actually. We're still doing screening action, but now we're actually going to use Siakam as like an inverted ball screen guy.
Yeah.
Now we're going to get Siakam attacking a mismatch because Lopez can't navigate a screen. Okay, the one non-shooter the Pacers can put Lopez on now is Nembhard. And now we're just going to run the offense through Nembhard because he's a point guard. So there's no in the starting and closing lineups, there's no matchup for Lopez that makes sense. So I just think he's off the court. Now, two other options.
I didn't know Nembhard was having that bad of a shooting season. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, 29%. Yeah, it's bad. But who cares? You pull up midi deceleration. That's all that matters.
Playoff Nembhard?
Playoff Nembhard too. Yeah, he was a demon. He was a demon in the playoffs. Do you go Giannis at the 5, which then means we lose his value as a free safety. We're going to put him in the action now because that's actually what happened in one of the regular season games.
Okay.
Bucks moved Giannis to the 5. He was on Siakam. Halliburton Siakam pick and roll became the new offense. And there's no one else behind the play. Like Kuzma is now your best rim protector. Like what do you do with that? It's the same exact thing. So then you kind of need Portis on the court. Can Portis keep up with the pick and pop? I don't know. Do you end up switching Portis? Like the pace, like, what do you do against Halliburton ball screens is basically what it all comes down to, because that is like the most damn near the most efficient play in the, like, it's like Jokic post ups and then Halliburton pick and rolls. Like, that's like damn near the most efficient play in basketball. And did I mention the Pacers also have, like, I will say the one advantage the Bucks do have defensively is that Giannis kind of neutralizes Siakam's mid post game.
Yeah.
But like, the Pacers have so many ways to beat you. If you want to switch, Turner and Siakam are going to abuse mismatches. If you somehow, some way, miraculously take Halliburton out of a game, we can just go with Nembhard, McConnell. We can start running stuff for Mathurin. They have so many weapons. And also, I was going to say, Brook Lopez can probably play against Thomas Bryant. Like, now you can drop. You'll give Thomas Bryant the 3. The Pacers, in their regular season game, just said, hey, we're not going to play Thomas Bryant. We're going to go Toppin and Siakam as our backup front court. And it's the same thing with the speed and the pace and space. So, yeah, I just think no matter what happens, if Dame doesn't play or Dame does play, if Brook Lopez gets played off the floor or he stays on the court, I think this is going to be a just ridiculously juiced offensive efficiency series. Like, if you remember, like, 2017 Cavs Boston, where it was just, what, was that 2017? Was that 2017?
I think it was. I think Cavs won in 5, but it didn't matter. Like, that was just, like, it was just ridiculously high scoring.
Yeah, it was 5, and it was like Kyrie in that series had a 76% true shooting.
Yeah, no, that was ridiculous. I'm trying to think, man. I think the other thing too, that even if, and I don't think there is, Indiana's also just gonna immediately put them in like problems defensively, like eliminate the like player for a second, just because of how Indiana spaces, like conceptually. Like, they run some of the more interesting alignments in terms of how they space the floor in general. You can see a lot of stuff with Turner in the slot, to where even if the adjustment is Giannis at the 5 or whatever, and Miles Turner's off ball, it's not like you can still roam and cheat with Miles. Is that a Starry and a Coke back to back? That is
a ghost.
Oh, it's a ghost. Okay, I was about to say, like, we were just
Starry and a Coke back to back is crazy work.
I was say, like, wait, that is insane work.
And I got water, bro. I got all the concoctions, man.
Because of how Indiana spaces the floor, it's not gonna matter. Like, it's not like you can still like cheat off with Giannis, because one, Miles Turner is in a 40% plus spot up catch and shoot threat, but also because of where he's spaced at, it's not a realistic option because he's spaced in the slot, and it's so much harder to try to attempt to protect the rim when the big or the 5-man X5, if you will, rather, is guarding the slot offensive player. So it'll be a fun series. Like, I think there's gonna be a lot of games where both teams are in the 120s or whatever. And Giannis is gonna have an insanely good series. Like, 32 might be low, might be 35. I would also expect Halliburton to have like an insanely productive series where we're like, I don't know, this might be insane, like 25 and 13 or something along those lines. Like,
wouldn't surprise me.
They can't guard him in pick and roll as a passer or a playmaker. I don't think they can keep up with their space, their pacing and transition or an early offense. I think Halliburton's just going to eat in this series.
I think the
Everybody.
big factor too that we haven't even talked about is that look at the Bucks' point of attack guys. Like Ryan Rollins is pretty good, but outside of that, like AJ Green, Torian Prince, Gary Trent Jr., Dame if he's back, none of those guys can navigate a screen and stick with Halliburton. So not only is Brook gonna be forced to guard the 2-on-1 and get out on the pop, or Portis or Giannis or whoever's in that action, Halliburton's coming off the screen and turning the corner with an advantage literally every single time. And Halliburton's just too good of a decision. Like, and we didn't even talk, dude. We didn't even bring up. You always like to bring up the point. They're getting a shot every time. Not only are they getting a shot every time, he doesn't turn the ball over, so they're getting a shot every time, and they're getting a good shot every time.
I was gonna say, and even if you like went ISO with Hallie and like Milwaukee switches and tries to neutralize the screening action. Okay, Hallie is a less effective isolation scorer than he is a ball screen operator, obviously.
Yeah,
but. Okay, my bad. You went from 94th percentile in terms of Halliburton pick and roll possessions, including pass outs, to 79th percentile.
And
in
I'd
isolation.
also like to point out that 79th number is against all defenders. If it is against Brook Lopez, I would imagine it's probably up in the 90s. Because Brook Lopez cannot guard Halliburton one-on-one. They actually tried to switch it a few times in late game situations. In the last game, they actually pulled Lopez and went Portis to close the game, which is what I'd imagine they do, or just Giannis at the fight. Like, I don't think this is a Lopez series at all. I really hope Doc Rivers isn't just super stubborn and just plays Lopez just for the sake of playing Brook Lopez.
Doc being Rivers, stubborn?
Yeah, I was gonna say he's never been stubborn before, so that's kind of a hot take, right? That's
oh my god.
But yeah, my ultimate takeaway. So I think neither team can meaningfully slow down the other. I think if Dame is back by game 3, we'll have a tough conversation. But my kind of takeaway was Giannis has to be literally perfect, and the role players have to really perform both as second side attackers and playmakers, and then obviously shooters. Like, as things currently stand, their only other advantage creation outside of Giannis is a Kevin Porter Jr. pick and roll and an AJ Green handoff. And it's like, what do you like? That's just, you're gonna have to run everything through Giannis just to keep up with the Pacers. And my takeaway is like, the Pacers have so many weapons and so many actions and so much offensive firepower that they can get a 7-point Halliburton game, or they can get a cold shooting night, and they're still gonna get like 115 points probably. So that's kind of where ultimately my prediction landed. I went Pacers in 6. I think if there's no Dame at all, I feel like I could see Pacers in 5. But if there is a Dame, I'm going Pacers in 7. I think the Pacers have the clear advantage in this series. It's not impossible. You cannot write off a team with Giannis, especially when it's like the ideal matchup. Like he could probably average 36 points a game if he really needs to. Also, I didn't even say my last thing. The non-Giannis minutes, I think, will be a disaster. Like, he has to play like 43 minutes a game in this series for them to have a chance. And then you risk injury because he's been hurt in the playoffs every year. Yeah, but I think Pacers in 6, Pacers in 5, or Pacers in 7 are my top 3 predictions. But yeah, it's a winnable series for the Bucks. They just have to be more flawless than the Pacers do to win.
I'm going Pacers in 6 regardless of scenario, I think.
Okay.
Regardless of outcome.
We got one left. You kick us off because you said Knicks-Pistons was one of your tougher ones earlier. So what are you thinking about Knicks-Pistons? Where's your head at?
I backtracked in terms of being one of my tougher ones. I lean Knicks in 6. I think. I will say this: the one advantage that I think the Pistons have is I truly don't see an option that I absolutely love for the Knicks in terms of how they're going to guard Cade. I do. That's probably like the one thing that I will take away from our conversation in the Deja Vu episode that I still kind of feel pretty strongly about is I don't love any of the Knicks options. Like, if it's Mikal on Cade from a matchup standpoint, okay, we have 2 legitimately elite options. It's one, we're just going to hunt Mikal in isolation situations with Cade, and we're going to do our best, like, space out the floor, maybe get an empty side and let Cade kind of operate as a middle-of-the-floor initiator for us. Or 2, and this option basically exists regardless of who's guarding Cade, is we're just going to hunt Cat in every single screening action. And it makes it even worse if Mikel's guarding Cade, because then Cade could just get Mikel in jail and force Cat to have to step up even higher. Okay, and that's where is Duran rolling right behind Cat and gets dunked on. Or if you go OG on Cade, then you still have that option. But then you also have the option of, I think you like lose some utility with OG, where he can't kind of cheat off and be active in the passing lanes and even be a weak side low man for you, where I don't like that utility at all for Mikal. And you're honestly, I just don't like that option for Detroit. Now, in the same breath, I think New York's firepower offensively is just going to be insanely too much. And the point you made on the first iteration of this conversation, which I really, really liked, is I think both styles, like, okay, we're going to try to make this a grinded out kind of series. I think that kind of favors the Knicks in the standpoint of, okay, this is a grit, your teeth, get out the mud type series. Okay, at the end of the day, the Knicks still have too much offensive firepower, and in the fourth quarter, it's still going to be, Cat spacing the floor, Brunson operating in the middle of the floor and just being like one of the three best clutch players on the planet. And then, okay, you go with Sarr if you go with Sarr on Brunson, then that probably means that OG and Mikal get to attack some sort of mismatch on the second side.
Yep.
And then, okay, we want to make this a run and gun. We're going to try and outgun you type of series. Then, okay, that just kind of fits right into what I think the Knicks probably prefer this series to go, where, okay, Cat gets to dominate in space. Okay, Brunson gets to dominate and just cook basically everybody. Mikal and OG still have the same mismatch hunting approach that we've kind of addressed already. So I lean Knicks in 6. I think this would be I think all these series have the potential to be insanely fun and competitive series. But I think just the overwhelming offensive firepower in this series from New York is going to make things just a little bit problematic for Detroit.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. You kind of hit all of my points. Like, this is going to be a big Cade series, I think. There really isn't anything the Knicks can do to comfortably slow him down unless they go double bigs. That's kind of was one of my heavy hitting points. And I think I think Thibodeau actually kind of hinted that he's going to be looking to do double bigs a lot. I kind of hope we do see that, because I do think that is a clear advantage for the Knicks in terms of now you can drop with Mitch. Now you can use Cat as your weak side guy, and you can get OG on the ball to like that is perfectly fine to protect the paint, I think. Because now you keep the size advantage with OG. You still have your rim protection behind the play. You have your pick and roll defender who's not a disadvantage in the 2-on-1. And then offensively, you kind of just like either use Mitch as your pick and roll guy and then have Cat play from the slot, kind of like you hinted at the Pacers like to do with Turner. Yeah. Or you put Mitchell in the deep dunker, and it's like you have to put a big on him. So Cat either has a mismatch, or you're just going 1-4 pick and roll to get Cat a mismatch, because Mitchell Robinson not only is a lob threat, he's like a top 3 offensive rebounder on the planet. So you can't just put a wing on him. He's gonna destroy you on the glass. Yeah, I just think the Knicks probably have a lot more ways to just attack. And I think it comes down to the fact that they just have much better advantage extension and connectors on their team. Like you hinted at it with Mikal and OG versus mismatches. They have more shooting, they have more ball handling, they have more passing than the Pistons. So regardless of how well Cade plays, and I actually think there's a lot of ways you can utilize Asar and Duran as interior scoring weapons in this series. I think Beasley and Hardaway are probably, I won't say Hardaway, but Beasley's probably the best shooter in this series. I don't know if that's a hot take. Like he's just genuinely just an elite shooter. And the Knicks will definitely have trouble.
Ant was the second best shooter Ant was the second best shooter in the league this season. Then Beasley's like probably the third best shooter.
Yeah. I think that's totally fair. I think another thing that you didn't touch on that I actually didn't even touch on in my video, I do think the Pistons will have a lot of success going at Brunson in action. Mm-hmm. Because you don't want to switch Brunson onto Cade.
Yep.
Right, you don't want to switch Brunson onto Cade. But like if you hedge that screener's probably Beasley, like Brunson's probably guarding Beasley, and that's not good. So I do think the guard-to-guard screening stuff's going to be huge for the Pistons. I also think a lot of Pistons fans have been telling me that they think the Pistons are going to open the series with Cade on Brunson. They were saying Cade's size and length actually is pretty effective against Brunson in space, and then that allows them to deploy Asar as a rim protector off of Josh Hart, maybe playing Josh Hart off the court. I don't know. There's a lot of things both teams can do on both sides of the ball. But again, my takeaway comes down to the Knicks are the ones that are dictating the adjustments. Like, depending on if they go double big or not, that kind of dictates the direction the series is going to go in. Depending on how they use Cat offensively and defensively, depending on who they put on Cade and who they put on the weak side. I just think the Knicks are in more of a position to force the Pistons to step out of their comfort zone. So in a series that I feel both teams have a lot of advantages and disadvantages, and I almost come away kind of 50-50 from a talent and game plan perspective, I give it to the team that I think just forces more adjustments. And I think like there's a very real pathway where Asar and Stewart are struggling to get minutes because of their lack of offensive versatility. And then the Knicks have the advantage because now your two best defenders are off the court. Whereas I feel like there's nothing the Pistons can do to play the Knicks' primary guys off the court. Does that make sense? Like, I don't think the Pistons can deploy anything offensively or defensively that's like, oh, Cat can't play. Because if it's attacking Cat in space and pick and roll, I think they just get Mitchell on the court and have him instead defend the action. And then, like, you kind of hinted at when we were doing our deja vu thing, is like, now you're going to put Cat in action. But if you put Cat in action and Mitchell's on the court, that means Duran's probably playing from the dunker. So Mitchell Robinson, all he has to do is kind of just, like, free safety it. And he's one of the better rim protectors in the league. And you can put Cat two on, like, you could have Cat put two on the ball. And it's probably like Tobias Harris or
Get the
Asar,
ball out of
like,
Cade's hands.
Exactly. Yeah, I think the Knicks do have a decent advantage here. And some of it is, like, just the fact that I just think they have more capable offensive players from top to bottom. Like, we didn't even talk about Deuce McBride off the bench if they need an extra shooter or passer. Campaign, too, another guy. I think if the Pistons need to match the offensive firepower, they get another shooter like Hardaway or Beasley on the court. They get Dennis Schroeder on the court for an extra ball handler. But now, you kind of talked about it, that's mismatches for OG and McHale to attack. And both of those guys are prone to like 20 to 25 point explosions if they're getting favorable matchups to attack out of the mid post and off of down screens. So yeah, I just think the Knicks have more ways to beat you. I think they force more adjustments, and I came away with Knicks in 6. But again, very winnable series for the Pistons. And I think this is going to be one of the more closer, fun ones. But yeah, I think Knicks take it in 6.
How would you rank the 8 series based off of your excitement level?
Ooh, okay. I'm going to count backwards. Okay. I think Cavs versus whoever's the least exciting to me. I think Celtics Magic is the second least exciting. I think Thunder Grizzlies is probably third after that. And these are just the series that I think are easy to decide. Now it gets tough. I think my next least interesting, these are all extremely interesting, so I can't even say least interesting, just the least most interesting.
Right.
I think Pacers or Pistons Knicks would be my 5th. I think Pistons Knicks would be my 5th. I think Pacers Bucks would be my 4th. So that leaves 3 Western Conference series. I think 3 for me is Nuggets Clippers. I think that's a really interesting series. But I also think I know what to expect from both teams. Whereas the top 2 series to me are Lakers-Wolves and Rockets-Warriors. And I think some of the Lakers-Wolves thing is like the names involved. Like Ant, LeBron, Luka just gets me excited. Also, I can't wait to see Rudy Gobert defend the 5 out. I think that's like basketball sicko in me. It'll be fun to see. But like also, I don't know what to expect schematically from either team. So I think it'll just be super interesting. And then Rockets Warriors is just straight up sicko because I think it's going to be a nasty series of like 2004 hoops. But like, sign me up for that if Steph Curry, Draymond, and Jimmy and Şengün and double bigs versus a small ball. Like, I just think that's the series where we're gonna see the most stuff. Because dude, I didn't even think about it. This is a rematch of Steve Kerr versus Udoka from the 2022
finals.
Oh, dude, yeah, that's the series for me. What about you? What's your 8?
Bottom 3, I don't even care. I would probably go Boston. I'm not looking forward to watching Boston Orlando. That for me would actually easily be 8. Then like Cleveland, especially if it's Cleveland Miami. Cleveland Miami 7.
Yeah, maybe I was thinking too much about Cleveland Atlanta. I think Cleveland Miami would go again above Boston Orlando for me too.
Cleveland Atlanta would probably be 8. And then OKC Memphis or OKC down. Actually, almost regardless, whoever OKC plays will probably be 6. I think that's just a better matchup than the other 2. For me, then it's Indiana, Milwaukee. This is below like Detroit Knicks for me, simply because I think I know what to expect a little bit more. It's just gonna be more so like who can just like outgun the other to a certain extent. Detroit Knicks, because of the different outcomes it could go and like how weird and like sicko-y it can get potentially. Then honestly for me it's LA Minnesota 3, Denver Clippers 2. I love the Jokic variable in this and trying to see how Denver tries, how weird Denver might potentially try to get with their lineups or even schemes potentially, how they might try to slow down the Clippers and vice versa. And then obviously it's Golden State Houston. That's one. That's easily I think the most interesting series.
That series is gonna be so fun, dude. Also, there's a lot of rivalries there because there's like Kerr versus Udoka. There's also just the Warriors and Rockets bad blood. Like they were battling in the playoffs for a decade. And then also, did you see Tari Eason say that he just doesn't like the Warriors?
No, I didn't. Oh wait,
in an interview, he was like,
"Go ahead."
No, what were you gonna say? I was saying in an interview, he just said he doesn't like the Warriors. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, do you remember? Because I just saw it on my timeline earlier. Do you remember that rant Draymond did on Dylan Brooks?
Yes, I saw that today too.
I like dog.
Yeah,
I
where he said the
forgot about
dynasty
this.
starts after you.
The dynasty starts after you. It's all right, champ. He says, you're not a champ.
No, this series is gonna be fire. This series is gonna be fire, and also it's the last game. It's Sunday night at 8:30 p.m. my time.
Yeah, Luka just hates Rudy Gobert. He just hates Rudy. Bucks Pacers sneaky rivalry at this point. Back-to-back years playing each other in the first round. Yeah, there's some fun.
Also, Pistons Knicks. I feel like they're not a rivalry necessarily, but there's a lot of like juice there. I also think Clippers potential bubble revenge against the Nuggets.
When we're doing the bubble thing 5 years later.
Bubble, yeah. I mean, Dwight Howard. They need to sign Dwight Howard to shut down Jokic, man.
Oh my god. Just so you guys know, this is so much better than the last time that we doubled the runtime.
Yeah, I'm so glad we didn't go with the last one. That was bad. It's a little bit more time consuming to redo a whole episode, but I'm glad we did it because we got more information, we got more takes off. We did like a little bit of like a back and forth with the schematics, which I think that's going to be our peak in the playoffs when we're going back and forth like, okay, do this. What do you do? What do you do for that? And we're kind of just like taking on the role of a coach because we're wannabes. No, but in all seriousness, we appreciate you guys listening to this episode. Make sure to follow us on social media. Sean's on Twitter at Sean_DAVI. He's on Instagram at Sean_Davis23. My personal accounts on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok are Tyler Britton_ or Tyler_Britton. And then, of course, all of my NBA content can be found at Hoop Venue on all platforms. Next time we talk to you will be after probably both or all of the game ones. So, yeah, we'll catch you guys. After a few playoff games. And I'm really excited, man. Let us know down in the comments what you think is going to happen in the playoffs and who you're rooting for to win this year's championship.